What's up, guys? And today we've got a very special announcement. They have finally announced the new Hearthstone expansion, and it is called Scholomance Academy. It's coming out August 4th, and I am very excited for this meta to be shaken up. But first, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, and you can catch me live on Twitch every single night at midnight PST. And in the days leading up to the expansion and after, if you would like some up-to-date deck lists, then you can also join my Discord, and the link is in the description. Okay, so first, let's get right into the card reveals. Let's talk about the types of cards that they're releasing, and of course, I'll give you my opinion on all of the new released cards. So there are two main new things coming to the game, which is dual class cards and spell burst. So dual class cards are just cards that can be used in two classes. It's not really a new thing, it's just tri-class cards with one less class, if you remember from Gadget-san. And there's also Spell Burst, which is a new mechanic that activates one time for each minion once a spell has been played. There's also these things called studies, but the cards kind of explain how they work, so I don't know why they're really a separate thing. And one more thing that you need to know, if you log into the game now, you have this card, Transfer Student. It is an epic 2-mana 2/2, you get 2 copies of it, and you can play it right away. What is this card? Well, it has different effects based on which game board you're on, and for the full list of effects, I will put a link in the description. However, it has some pretty neat effects, including in Wild, it has, I believe with the Knights of the Frozen Throne, it has the Arthas Death Rattle effect. Mean Streets Battlecry, give a random minion in your hand +2/+2. There's one that discounts the cost of a card in your hand by 2. Some of the wild effects of this card are actually really okay. So I think this card might see some play in Even Shaman, some decks like Reno Mage or Reno Warlock, and overall I think this is a very fun card, and I've been experimenting with it in Quest Mage. I don't think it's good in Quest Mage, but Quest Mage still beats everything. Anyway, just wanted to let you know this card is in your collection and you can play with it right now. Okay, and without further ado, let's get right into the cards and talk about how they are going to impact the meta in Wild. Now this card, Onyx Mage Scribe, 6 mana 4/9 spell burst, add 2 random spells from your class to your hand. This is too slow for Wild, and it will see no play. Next, we have 0 mana First Day of School, a Paladin card, add 2 random 1-cost minions to your hand. This is a cool and fun card, and it'll probably be good in Standard, but even with hand buff effects in Wild, I just don't see this seeing play. You can just pick better 1-drops that do this effect for you, and therefore, this card, relying on randomness, is not all that good. 8 mana Warrior, Troublemaker. It is a 6/8. At the end of your turn, summon 2 3/3 Ruffians that attack random enemies. This seems like a card that might be good in Arena, but I have no idea how Arena works. Anyway, this card won't see any play in Wild because it's an 8 mana Warrior card, and it definitely doesn't make sense in Pirate Warrior. Now, this card is very interesting. Devolving Missiles, it is a dual class Mage and Shaman card, so both relevant meta classes, and it reads, shoot 3 missiles at random enemy minions that transform them into ones that cost 1 less. Now, this card could be super good against classes like Warlock. Like if you hit this on a Void Caller, it's going to turn it into a 1-drop if it's the only minion on board. If you hit it against a Void Lord, it's going to turn it to a 6-drop, and you can see the strong potential of this card here because it's flexible. It works with a lot of minions where you can high roll a little bit, or it works with few minions where it gets the effect multiple times on the same minion. So this card has a lot of potential, but it's one of those cards that's so strange we're just going to have to play with it to see where its exact power level is at. I think this will see play in meta decks, but I don't know which ones. Quest Mage might find this card just a little bit too useless in terms of completing the quest. It doesn't, so it might just not be part of the game plan, even though it is a powerful control tool. It being able to be discounted by 0 with Sork is a relevant consideration. I think this is a card to keep an eye out for because it could be much better than we realize. We just need to play with it to find out, and I am very excited to play with this one. Now, this is the other card that people are talking about the most, Lightning Bloom. It is a dual class Shaman and Druid card, and it reads 0 mana, gain 2 mana crystals, this turn only, overload 2. So it's like the old Innervate, but it has overload 2. So obviously this has strong potential in Standard Druid, but in Wild, where does this see play? We have regular Innervate, which I think was Hall of Famed, And we also have a lot of great ways with Kael'thas to just cheat out big spells as is, so does this have a place in Druid? I think the answer is yes. It does have a place in Druid, but it's not as good as people are saying. We already know what Druids can do when they cheat out a ton of mana. It's powerful, but in this meta, it's not quite good enough for the most part, and I don't think this card's going to change that. With the nerf to Fungal Fortunes, this might be the small nudge that Druid needs to come back into the meta a little bit, but I'm still not entirely sure what decks would run this. Shaman, on the other hand, I think there will be some very silly high roll type ways that Shaman can use this card with Ancestor's Call, Teneltrog, Totem Golem, but I think the 2 mana cost in the future and the cost of not being able to run another card that isn't this card is going to be enough to balance it out. I don't think the developers would push another card like this right after nerfing all of these 0 mana effects in Standard, but you never know with Blizzard, so I guess we'll see. But I think this card is more fair than people realize. Cult Neophyte. So this is a 2 mana 3/2 battlecry. Your opponent's spells cost 1 more next turn. If you were building a Quest Mage hate deck, you would run this, but I don't think you could run it in any other situation. It would work against Quest Mage, but that's it. Goody Two-Shields. So this is a Paladin 3 mana 4/2 Divine Shield. Spell Burst, gain Divine Shield. Now, I think this is clearly a good card. Like, this has a strong effect. A 3 mana 4/2 Divine Shield is not playable in Wild, but with a cool effect might be, and getting Divine Shield back is a pretty cool effect. So, overall, I think this card has some potential in Standard, but in Wild, even with Librams, I don't see this being relevant. Libram Paladin might sneak in this card as like one of the last 5 cards that you would run, but it doesn't stand out as overly strong or even all that playable in Wild to me, because even Libram Paladin is not a very strong deck right now. Diligent Note Taker, 2 mana 2/3 Shaman, Spell Burst, return the spell to your hand. That is a pretty cool effect. However, I don't think there are many decks in Wild that can make good use of it. The only deck that I can think of that would run this card is Shudderwalk and Reno Shamans. I think they would have a lot of fun with this card. However, those decks aren't very good right now. So if you're talking meta, I don't think this will see meta play, but I think it will see some very fun off-meta play. And also, it's got some really cool art. I love the color scheme on this guy. The green in the background looks super cool. Just a fan of this card in general. Unfortunately, it won't see much play. Transfer Student. So I talked about this one earlier. It's a 2 mana 2/2 that has different effects based on the game board. Some of the Wild effects, which are of course Wild boards only, are really good. So play around with this card. I think it's fun, but not OP. And it'll be a fun way to shake up the meta just a tiny bit before the expansion releases. Wretched Tutor. It is a 4 mana 2/5 with Spell Burst, deal 2 damage to all other minions. This is a neutral card, which means they don't intend for it to be very strong. It's clearly not good enough in Wild. Nature Studies. 1 mana discover a spell, and your next spell costs 1 less. In Druid, the problem is that you can't find a consistent effect that does what you want, and you can't outvalue the card that you would replace it for. So this card is not good in Wild. Rattlegore. It is a 9 mana 9/9 that Death Rattle resummons with -1/-1. So overall, this is a ton of stats, but the stats take forever to propagate, and it doesn't come down until turn 9, which makes it very, very bad in Wild, especially for Warrior. Wand Thief. So this is an interesting card because it has a 1 mana 1/2 Mage/Rogue combo, discover a Mage spell. Now in Rogue, I don't know what this will mean for Wild. It will probably see play in decks like Odd Rogue because I could imagine they really enjoy the effect of getting a Mage spell. However, we'll have to see on that front, and Rogue isn't really a meta force in Wild, so really we want to talk about how will this see play in Mage. Now, obviously it's very easy to activate a combo in Quest Mage, and discovering a Mage spell is exactly up their alley. A 1 mana spell is flexible, it fits within their curve, and I think this card has potential to see play in Quest Mage. I think it is a more likely candidate than the Devolving Missiles at this point, but I am looking at 4 copies of cards that may improve the deck for Quest Mage. It's not looking good. If you haven't crafted Quest Mage, you probably should. And if you need to brush up on your skills, you can check out my Quest Mage guide, because it looks like you're gonna need it. And last but not least, we have the legendary dual class Druid/Hunter card, Shando Wildclaw. And so this has choose one, give beasts in your deck +1/+1, or transform into a copy of a friendly beast. I think both of these effects are too slow and require too much of your deck to build around for this individual one of to be good. I think the effect is not terrible in a vacuum, but it's so hard to make it consistent that you would never put it into a wild deck, either Druid or Hunter, especially not Hunter because you wouldn't make a Hunter deck in wild anyway. So those are all of the new cards. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know what type of expansion content you guys want to see in the comments section, and I'll see you on ladder.